I just wish there were a Metal Gear game that somehow undoes this. A game that doesn't take itself so seriously and isn't concerned with meeting the standards of what the fans expect from Raiden's arc. A game where instead of just trusting that now he's with a family and things are gonna be different this time, which they won't, because why wouldn't the stuff with the guilt and flashbacks and the PTSD happen again? Raiden, I don't know, accepts who he is and tries to make peace with that and be a good person anyway. And also a robot dog.
I finally found what I was looking for.
Fuck yeah, it's Revengeance. I've heard people say that Revengeance ruins Raiden's character. I disagree. I think 4 ruined Raiden's character and Revengeance salvaged what was left. Let me explain. At the end of 2, I can believe that Raiden lives a better, freer life, but I don't believe it at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4. Last time he tried to do this, he relapsed and totally fell apart. So what's different this time? Why is it gonna work this time? Well, for one, he's a literal war machine now, so maybe we count that as a con. Rose is now a psychologist for whatever good that is, and he has a son. I guess the Patriots are gone, but they weren't directly responsible for his relapse this time. That was just because, as Big Boss kept trying to explain, a soldier's mind can never truly leave the battlefield, and Raiden is body and soul a soldier. Bringing Raiden back for this game was a mistake on its own, not even considering the events of this game. So if you wanted to do a new arc for Raiden, you'd have to take it in a new direction, and oh boy does Rising. For one, the structure and themes of this game are actually very similar to Metal Gear Solid 2, just blown up and made less wordy, which is pretty funny. But Raiden spends the whole game dealing with memorable, charismatic characters who comprise the boss fight, and god is that such a breath of fresh air. But just like the older characters, they're constantly gaslighting and manipulating him, trying to break him, because they understand that he's still unstable and constantly questioning himself. This game understands that that doesn't just go away because you wanted it to the second time you wrote the same story. So instead, halfway through putting up with this shit for the 3rd time, Raiden stops putting up with it. And then Jack is back. Raiden accepts that he's a soldier, that his brain is wired for violence and that can't be changed so easily. Which is of course sad, but instead of deluding himself into a happy ending, he decides to use that capacity for violence to fight for his ideals, which in this case happens to be saving a bunch of children from becoming soldiers like him. It completely solves all of the issues presented in the previous game and reworks them into a new, reasonable direction for this character, while also working back in the theme of hope for the next generation. Bravo, Etsutamari, you beautiful Shin Yakuza handsome-ass looking man. Metal Gear Rising is great. Give me a sequel with a better camera, on-the-fly weapon switching, and less enemies with firearms. That was Raiden.